Good morning. It is 6:44 a.m. on Wednesday. Yeah, September 13th, 2017. I'm Christiana Ellis and I just got up. This is 5 more minutes. For some reason in my head, the date was further, it was uh, further ahead than the 13th. I don't know. I think in my when I looked down at the date just to confirm, I was sort of half expecting it to say the 15th, and I'm not sure why. Um, Perhaps I was trapped within some kind of a time loop and actually experienced all the way to the 15th and then reset back to now, but lost my memory of it. And that feeling was the subconscious part of my brain trying to tell me what happened. I think that's probably the most likely explanation. So last night I rewatched Bridge on the River Kwai for watching 100 movies, as previously mentioned yesterday. Which, it was actually interesting just because I tend to think of that movie as featuring two converging plot lines, one of which I am way more invested in than the other. But oddly, the one that I usually feel less invested in, I was marginally more invested in last time. Last night, I'm not sure why. But yeah, hey, I'm not complaining about liking something even more than I expected to. Um, but part of what I was doing while I rewatched it is I was drawing dry erase maps for upcoming D&D new so many levels tonight. We're going to be streaming on Twitch again, and I hope that the party goes where I think that they're planning to go, because otherwise my maps are less useful. I'll have to improvise, and they'll either go eventually to where I have in mind or not. So we'll see. It's a funny aspect of preparing for these games is it's very easy to over prepare um, with stuff that the party may never actually encounter. But so on that note, one of the things that I have thought a little bit about occasionally is whether or not I want to actually write something up for this campaign, meaning something like a setting guide or a campaign guide, or even just taking little pieces of it and having those be individual adventures and having them on like DM's Guild or something like that. There's a lot of those types of products out there, and in particular, I just received my hard copy in the mail yesterday of the Taldore campaign setting. This is the world that the Critical Role campaign takes place in. So this was, written by Matthew Mercer, who's the dungeon master of that one. And it's basically, this whole book is just everything about that world, maps and cities and, locations and all of that sort of thing. Describing, like if you wanted to run a campaign in that setting. And it's a cool idea. It seems like it's a lot of work, but it's also, without wanting to say that it's not a good thing to do, it does just strike me as one of the very first lessons that I learned early on in becoming, starting to DM my own games, is how easy it is to over prepare in terms of having a lot of information that won't necessarily come up, and that it's probably more useful in many respects to be able to improvise something and make it up on the spot well, rather than have everything pre-planned and memorized. But that said, I suppose that just comes into different flavors, and also if you're not really able to capture all of that stuff in detail and depth in advance. Well, and the other thing is, I'm also, at the same time that I run this so many levels campaign, I'm I'm running the Cursive Strahd module, and in that one, all of it's prepared for me. And so it's this balance of the convenience of, oh no, there's an answer for that, and it's interesting, and someone spent the time to think of it, and so it's not just the first answer that comes up to my improving brain. It's an actual interesting plot, and there's lots of extra detail, and it doesn't just become, oh, who's that guy walking down the street? That's Steve, and he is a blacksmith, and he likes pie. It's like, oh no, it's an actual interesting narrative, which, if I were able to just, well, okay, never mind. Who cares? I'm getting off track with the improv exercises. The point being that there's this balance always in DMing of what you have prepared versus what you make up on the spot. And having all of that extra world building is certainly fun, but it's also a good example of the sort of thing that, like when you're writing a novel, for example, you can get lost in the world building and never actually write the story. But yeah, in any case, I'm ready for tonight and excited. This is a great looking campaign setting book for Critical Role, especially. I really enjoy Critical Role, and so it's yeah, good stuff happening. All right, so I will talk to you guys tomorrow for 5 more minutes.